Think of the people you interact with every day. Would you want to spend a day in a canoe with them? Hi, I'm Nathan Mercero, CEO of Planning Alternatives. We're a disruptive brand in the financial planning space with a point of view that true wealth has nothing to do with money. Growing up in a small town in Canada, I experienced examples of families with money and without. It started me on this journey of understanding wealth and the idea that spending a day in a canoe with someone could be one of the best investments you could make. Join me as I sit down with leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives, rule breakers, and friends to discover their perspective of true wealth. And maybe you'll start to shift yours. I'm excited today to be joined by Russell Budd. Russell, we've met through a few events that we've shared experiences in South Florida, Southwest Florida, and Naples area. And you've really stood out with your community focus. And I'd love listeners to just understand what you experience when you're thinking about making impact in community. And then we'll get to your kind of your history too of how you all
Okay.
start.
Community impact, what I'm thinking of is in this town, and I'm very locally focused. In this town is where I live, my family lives, my friends live, and I want to try and help it be a better place. And it's just that simple. Leave it a little bit better than what we found it.
And how long have you been in Naples?
I've been in Naples 48 years. I moved down here when my parents retired. I was still in high school, so I actually graduated from Naples High before I went on to college, and then came back to Naples and been here ever since.
And then in your professional track, your career, what have you focused on? And because I think that's a whole interesting story too.
As I mentioned, I graduated locally, Naples High School, went to college. I was actually a marine biology major because I just thought that was really interesting. And I got to my senior year and I realized that the Calypso was full and I didn't speak French, and younger people won't even know what I'm talking about. But that was part of why I like marine biology. And I had worked every summer in construction, in various parts of construction, hands on as a tradesman. And I figured the truth is, construction's what I do. I found a program at the University of Florida in construction management, changed majors, got my degree in construction management, and came back to town, and then been in construction ever since.
Well, construction has been a boom industry in all of Florida, but especially in the southwest part of Naples and the corridor north.
Yes, I picked a good town to be a builder.
What's been your experience as a business person or a business owner in building the bridge to community involvement? Because there's a lot of ways, some businesses say, well, I want to do community involvement to get my name out there. Some people say, well, this cause is important to me and I want to be more intentional about that. Some people kind of get pulled into events or causes, intentionally or unintentionally. What's been your experience? And if you can give listeners some insight about from a business builder perspective, where does community involvement fit in the business building process?
Well, for me, it started just as you described as one of the possibilities. Many more people getting my name out there through the local contractors association, then the Chamber of Commerce. And the more I got involved, the more people I met, the more engaged I became in the community. And really probably one of the great pivot points for me was a local leadership program, the Leadership Collier program that's put on by the Chamber of Commerce. And although, as I mentioned, I graduated from high school, I'd been in town for a few years, I thought I knew the town. That program really helped me understand the breadth and depth of the community and other areas that I had no awareness of. And that really piqued my interest, and I started getting involved in other aspects of the community, and it's just kind of taken off from there.
And what were some of the areas in that program that stood out that you kind of were surprised by or learned more about that you didn't expect?
Um, One of the interesting things, our one day was law enforcement. I did a ride along. Um, Ended up having a really exciting time where the deputy I was with jumped out of the car, was chasing a suspect. I was in the car, And I realized here I am in a bad part of town in the passenger seat of a car. So I run around and got in the driver's seat and started and followed my guy as he's running down the road. And he dipped into an alley and was calling on the radio. So I was sitting in the car when other support vehicles started showing up. So when they wheeled up and they look and they see this strange guy sitting in the car, I said, "Hi, my name's Russell Blood. I'm with the Leadership Collier program." And they just stared at me, making sure I was not one of the bad guys behind the wheel. That's an experience that sticks with you. And I came home and I actually told my wife that night, if I wasn't already deeply invested in a career path, boy, at law enforcement, that was so exciting. And she said, "Well, you are deeply invested. You're not getting into law enforcement. Don't be silly."
Well, it's more important than ever in that scenario to have your hands above your head as backup and reinforcement shows up. With the focus on community involvement, you've really become an advocate of a number of causes or areas of focus within the Naples community. How did that evolve, and maybe highlight a few that you've really zoomed into?
Well, one of the things I've gotten fairly involved in is mental health issues. And that started because we had a family member who was going through a really, really difficult time. Uh, it reached a suicidal stage where we never crossed that bridge, but it was really rough. And that really interested me. And I had no analytic or clinical skills. And I became aware of the local mental health facility, the David Lawrence Center. I knew some people who were involved with it. I was interested. I got on their board, worked through the various seats, and became chairman of the board. And that I still have no clinical skills, but I understand the business side of it a lot better. And from there, I was involved in other mental health programs like NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, and then started trying to figure out how we can do things to help them raise money. And that's where I was able to bring in another one of my interests, and that's barbecue. Um, I started out grilling on a Weber charcoal grill like everybody else and burning chicken. And then about 10 or 12 years ago, I became more aware of barbecue, distinctly different from grilling. Some people consider those interchangeable words, and they're not. And got involved in barbecue. And what I do now is I actually host twice a year, a few hundred friends and clients, and have a different not for profit be the featured recipient each time. So what we tell everybody is lunch is free, but anything you care to contribute all goes 100% to the charity. And David Lawrence Center and NAMI were a couple of our initial recipients, and it's a lot of fun. It's the important things in life include faith, family, friends, and meaningful work. And this is the idea of getting my friends together to prepare the barbecue, cooking it all night. And good barbecue goes better with a couple beers. So that's all part of the process. And then having that slow cooked brisket and pulled pork and sausage and grilling some chicken, and then having a few hundred people come over and give real exposure to the not for profit, raise some money. It's a great thing. And it takes our entire company. Everybody's involved. My family's involved. My son in law helps me with the grill. And so I'm not doing it. I'm just one of the people in there kind of pulling them together. And that's been a lot of fun. And it gets a lot of exposure. And have a beer with friends.
Well, we're delighted to be part of the Farm City Barbecue and support the great cause and focus that you're promoting.
Farm
Now,
City is actually a different one. The one I'm
okay,
talking about is my barbecue, the Farm City Barbecue, which I'm also involved in. I'm chairing that event. That's a annual barbecue, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, where about 2,000 people come out and we grill a nice choice strip steak and serve them baked beans and a mockly salad and beer and water, and it's like a community reunion. And that's coming up in just a couple of weeks, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So separate barbecue event, and that one supports various youth charities, 4-H, junior deputies, youth leadership Collier, and the Kiwanis kids. So in that case, all volunteers, no paid staff, and all the money goes to the youth charities.
Well, it sounds like first you're focusing on great causes, and it sounds like there's been some pretty extensive research in the lab around barbecue sampling and how to get the temperature just right.
Absolutely right. In fact, to that point, I've taken it as taken my hobby a little bit further. I've actually gone to a barbecue class at the Culinary Institute. They have one of their 3 campus locations is in San Antonio. I went to there. Also went to what's called Camp Brisket at Texas A&M University in their meat science department. They run a 2-day class on how to cook Texas brisket. And I've been to several other barbecue classes, which are always a lot of fun. But then I come back and try to refine the program, and a lot of people seem to like the food we produce.
I'd like to zoom into the area of developing initiative with people in the community around a common cause. So it starts with one person. You had an idea, you had a vision, you thought about possibilities. How do you unpack moving from that idea to here we are with these amazing events that you're hosting? How do you assess what are the stages of development so that someone's saying, I'm kind of interested in making an impact in community? What's the recipe on that front from a involvement, participation, and focus?
You have to find the right people and the right topic and bring them together. There are so many not-for-profits in our community. Naples is blessed to have a lot of affluent people live here that have come from other parts of the country, because in the winter our climate's pretty nice when we're not having a hurricane, and they have experiences in their hometown, and we have scores of not-for-profits, and there's room for all of them because there's different people have different motivations where somewhere in their life something touched them, and part of it is just whatever the things I'm interested in don't touch everybody. You just got to find like-minded people, and that usually comes up in conversation. This conversation is structured and organized, and you're asking questions, but you meet people, you find common interests, and then likes attract likes, and you start coalescing, get a critical mass, and somebody has a bright idea and said, why don't we try this and give it a run? And a lot of the people I know are in the business community, so used to organizing, structuring, process, and pulling things together. So it's a natural.
I think you're onto a formula that is really impactful. I know just from our conversation today, the topic of mental health is very important to me and my family, and we've become involved in a variety of initiatives. And I am just a big supporter of putting a spotlight in that whole area because it's been underserved, in my opinion, from a focus and support standpoint. And then who can turn down a good barbecue? So I, I think you've covered some pretty important categories. But focusing on the mental health side, what do you see as areas of focus and support that you've observed as being impactful for people that are finding challenges in the mental health space? What are some, impact points?
Unintended, mental health treatment is functionally on allocation, in that the need exceeds the ability to deliver. And it's largely a financial issue because some of the money, like the David Lawrence Center, they get some of their money from state and federal grants. They get some money from insurance. They have some people who can fund their own, and they come up short. And the reason more people don't get into the mental health service business, in contrast, for example, there is a lot of investment and development in elderly care, whether it's assisted living, skilled nursing, adult congregate living facilities, there's a whole range of products. Well, you can make money doing those things. There's a whole lot of opportunity to help people through that very important stage of their life. There is a absence of services in in mental health, and the people who are in it do a great job, and their hearts and minds and soul are involved, and they're working really hard. Uh, but the current funding sources through insurance and government support, it's not enough. And people who could benefit from appropriate therapy, and that's what there's not an organized allocation, but it's a functional allocation that there's just not enough service for the people that need it.
So as you think about 5 years from now, 10 years from now, your future, what's your dream? What are you looking forward to in this whole
Uh,
area of community impact?
One of the things I'm pretty focused on right now in that 5-year window so that fits, is trying to mentor and groom the next generation. Because appearances to the contrary, I'm not in my 30s. Those days are long past. And while I'm not ready to check out this week, I can see that I'm approaching the fourth quarter of this game, and I really need to help encourage, mentor others to get involved. And in the various not-for-profit organizations I'm in, that is a constant theme. So 5 years from now, if I was able to look back and say, here's the people that are stepping up and taking over and doing an even better job at it than I ever could, that would be great.
And how do you find those people? How do you build a plan around next generation?
Barbecue.
Fair enough. Throw a party is what I just heard.
Throw a party and people show up, and then you talk to them, and you see who wants to take the conversation and roll up and take it further and roll up their sleeves. And they're the ones you sink your teeth into and say, well, let me show you how.
Our mission as a company is to focus on true wealth, help people plan their finances, get a good financial plan in order, manage their investment strategies, work with their team of professionals, but have a point to all of it to say,
Mhm.
what's the point of our financial resources? And creating impact is such a profound expression of what we refer to as true wealth. And that has nothing to do with money. It has more to do with focusing on the need and responding to what the community is asking for. What's your sense of purpose in life as you think about Russell Budd and the story of your journey? What's your
Um,
another way to ask it is what's your version of true wealth?
it's not money. Money doesn't buy happiness. Money gives you choices, gives you better choices. But how you execute on those choices makes the difference. And happiness and satisfaction, I mentioned them earlier. To me, the key components are faith, family, friends, and meaningful work. And to the extent that you can focus on those areas, and it makes a difference in the quality of the life of the individual, the people you touch, the community you live in. I think that's where the action is. And I've listened to some of your podcasts, and you've had people with national and international impact. And I think that's fantastic. I'm not focused in the bigger scale. I'm like, my barbecues that I do myself have about 300 people because I can't personally prepare the meat for more than 300. And I'm not interested in scaling it up. But there are people who think in terms of scaling and take it far further. Good for them. There's, you know, a little bit of talent I have doesn't lean that way. And then there's an opportunity out there for everybody, whatever their talent, and just try to get them engaged and interested.
I think you living by example is inspiring because what you've done is taken an interest and you've taken a step into the community to activate something. And I think it's about all of us doing something and taking time to pause and say, what does impact mean to me? What does impact mean to my world? Whether that's the world of your immediate family, your literal neighborhood, the town, city you live in, state, country, globe. I mean, we're all equipped with many opportunities and we have amazing resources when we link them together through people connections and resource connections. And I just want to celebrate the great work that you've done and being a champion for worthy causes and being an activator in the Naples community.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. It's rewarding. It's part of what makes life worth living. And if along the way I can help this town be a little bit better than the way I found it, well, good. That's the point. Try to be a giver, not a taker. It's a lot more fun.
Well, it sounds like it's time to head to the barbecue then.
Oh, it's always time.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review. To discover what wealth means to you, please take our assessment at planningalt.com.